What's going on, guys? Today, we're getting serious. So serious, in fact, that I've brought a friend along in order to discuss this game today. That's right. I'm talking about Kaya, because today, we're talking about Genshin Impact. So, typically, I have my editor do these fancy videos where he does the intro, the music, and all that, but instead, you're getting me today. So, if you can handle my editing style and all that, today, we'll go ahead and click like and subscribe, and I'm talking about Genshin because it just came out with a new story, and I just thought it was worth talking about because my editor got sick, and I needed something that I could work with really quickly. But I feel like I have something very much to say about this game because it continues to be successful. It's a game that's kind of an anomaly in terms of anything we've seen as of recently. And so I wanted to look at its kind of continued success and what exactly it has to offer. And what I mean by that is Genshin Impact came out in 2020, and since then, it has made not $1 billion, not $2 billion, but nearly $4 billion in revenue. With a B, $4 billion in revenue since it released in 2020. And that is absolutely insane. I play Genshin, I love Genshin, I think it's a great game, but $4 billion good? How did it get to that point? Not only that, but it doesn't seem like the train is stopping. Just recently, you might have seen trailers for it. It was announced there's going to be a Genshin Impact anime as well. It's one that I'm looking forward to watching, but on top of the fact that it's already made $4 billion, it does not look like that's slowing down at all. So I wanted to get at the point of whether it is in fact the best live service game. And while I can't say for sure at this point, what I can say is if the train continues for Genshin Impact, I truly believe that it could get there one day. So sit down, grab your popcorn, and hear me out for a minute as I rant about a game that I play way too much. And we're going to start with the best part of Genshin Impact. Okay, yes, that's said with a little bit of sarcasm, but it's the gacha element of the game. And the gacha element is kind of what keeps you hooked. And what I mean by that isn't just the idea of paying for a currency and then getting the character, because most gacha games are mobile games, and Genshin Impact is on mobile, but I don't really think of it as a mobile game in the traditional sense. Most gacha games are very simple in their gameplay. You just press the little button over and over again, you pay for the character, the little thing whirs, and then it shows the color of the character, and it's like, oh, I got a 5-star! And that's usually about the depth that a gacha game has in the mobile sphere. But Genshin Impact goes a step further and offers you a kind of experience very similar to that of Legend of Zelda Breath in the Wild in terms of kind of the overall aesthetic of it. I'm not exactly comparing them one-to-one, but I think you get the idea here. So there's always new characters to get in Genshin. But new characters in Genshin also means new abilities, sometimes new elements, new domains that you have to get artifacts for, and these domains give you more of a reason to continue playing the game. The domains aren't just like some side thing where you have to check in every once in a while, tap and get your currency so that you can level something up. No, domains are something that you play. They're something that you actively do, and quite often, I do them with friends on my Twitch channel. I get a couple viewers of mine who also play the game. We all do them together, and it's kind of how we hang out, is we do domains, and I kind of talk over that. And then on top of that, you have Primo Gems in order to do the gacha element of the game. Daily commissions keep you playing the game on a daily basis. They make sure that you are continually trying to get these new characters, which in turn unlocks content, or not unlocks, but it keeps you playing content. It's structured perfectly, and you don't feel as bad paying money to get the characters because the base game is already free as well. So why not spend $5 to get a few Prima Gems and see what I can do to get this one specific character that I like quite a bit. The current banner, for instance, is Yoimiya, who has been run before. She's had banners in the past, and Nahida, the new Archon character. This banner so far has made over $28 million of revenue. And there's still 6 days left of this banner. $28 million. That is a heck of a lot of money. And let's put that into perspective a little bit too, because the worst banner that Genshin has ever done, like absolute floor of Genshin banners, did almost $7 million in revenue. So every time they put out a banner, it's bringing in egads of revenue. And that might not be all of the revenue, because the site that I used is very convenient. It's genshinlab.com. I highly recommend it. I'll put the link in the bio. Shows that it says China market iOS revenue. So this might not even be Genshin revenue as a whole. It might only be the Chinese iOS revenue. And if that is the case, then they are making bank on this revenue. And I would believe it, because you would need to in order to be an almost $4 billion game. My point is, it gives you incentive to buy these characters because the game is free, and you kind of get an extra reason to play the game if you get these characters. But there's one more factor on top of that keeps you getting these characters as well. It's very pertinent, and that is the plot. Now, you might think that that's a little bit of a non sequitur argument. What does the plot have to do with me spending money to get a cool looking character? Well, it has a little bit more than you think, and I can prove it with one character in particular, and that is the Raiden Shogun. So a little while back, Inazuma, this new region of Genshin, was announced. And people were pretty hyped about it, but they were also really hyped about the Electro Archon, the Raiden Shogun. I heard non-stop chatter about the Raiden Shogun back when I did Genshin Sundays on my Twitch. Every week it seemed we were talking about, are we gonna get Bale? Are we gonna get the Raiden Shogun? Are we gonna spend money to get the Raiden Shogun? And the short answer is yes, I do have the Raiden Shogun, and it was the greatest decision I think I've ever made. But that said, they built up the Raiden Shogun as this really epic, brooding character, and it worked. And it worked more so because she had such a crucial element of the plot. And you might say, what's your evidence that just some other character might not make a lot of money to one that's more powerful or meta? And I raise to you Kazuha, who I love. I love Kazuha, his character. He's super powerful, and what I always do is I use his like spinny animo attack, and then it goes boom, and then it also has Klee doing like the fire move, and it all combines together, and it makes a big explosion, and it's awesome. Kazuha, on his first banner, this meta powerful character, he didn't even crack $10 million, which again is according to this iOS statistic that I'm using. If we're looking at that, Raiden Shogun made over $30 million and is one of the biggest characters in terms of revenue. Well, not only that, the Raiden Shogun did it twice. Both times the Raiden was run in a banner, over $30 million was made for iOS China market revenue. This is incredible. This is an insane amount, and I would argue that it is mostly because of her relevance in the plot and how she was marketed as this brooding character. But those aren't the only reasons. The gacha, the story elements of things aren't the only reasons that it's growing, but primarily that's what boosts it to the top. But with that said, is it still growing in terms of player base? Because yeah, the revenue could rise. It could just be the 10% who actually pay to use the game, but maybe they're not growing in terms of player base. And that is where I have probably the most astounding statistic of all of them in this video. The revenue, to me, seems very insignificant in comparison to the player base growth. Because since January of 2021, the player base has over doubled. What was the player base in January of 2021, you ask? 25 million monthly players. That is monthly players over 25 million, and now, today, November of 2022, we are at over 63 million monthly players. That's right, not just doubled, but over doubled, even getting upwards of tripled now. We're getting, it's not quite there yet, but it's still rising, and it's rising pretty significantly. And on top of all of that, of every single month that Genshin has been out, it has decreased in player base 2 times, 2 months. out of the probably roughly 20 plus months that it's been out now. 2. And that is absolutely insane because at one point in Genshin's history, they had to do the same banner over and over and over again because China was having some difficulties with a certain illness that forced a lot of people to be in lockdown. So there was no development really being done on the game besides essentially sustaining the servers. And yet, during all of that time, through the entire history of the game, player base decreased twice. That's it. And I would say that this is mostly due to, and this is a bit more personal conjecture, but I think the data kind of backs this up from what I've said at this point, but the live service element of always giving the players month after month, even if they don't have a new Archon quest or story, that's like the big overarching story of the entire game. Even if that doesn't happen, there's events, there's domains you can do to build your characters, you can explore the world, there is always something to do in Genshin, and even when things start to get a little bit slow, the next month starts, you get a new event. I personally don't have a ton of time to play Genshin, and I feel almost overwhelmed every time I log in because there's always something for me to do. Whenever I build characters, it's typically on stream because I want to relax and have fun with my followers, and at that point, I don't even want to focus on the story because I focused on it all the previous week and making sure I get my commissions done and all of that. And because this game always has a new thing for you to do, the consistent player base who has kind of hooked themselves in, they're not leaving, and every new player that comes in, they also get into this cycle and continue to play. Even if they're not interested in the characters, I don't see that monthly increase stopping anytime soon. Now, it might get in smaller margins, but I think it'll continue to increase over at least the next few months. Now, again, over the next 3 years, 5 years, we'll see where the curve starts to flatten out a little bit, or maybe even some people start to drop off. But so long as the player base is there and the money keeps rolling in, I don't believe Genshin is going somewhere anytime soon. I'd be really curious to see how it fares in competition with a lot of not only mobile games, because it often gets classified as one, but I really see it as more of a console or major release, how it continues to fare as a competitor in the market. Genshin's really kind of a new case of a game. I've not seen a game quite like it and how it's executed because it has just such an interesting mix of open world and gacha elements, and it obviously has worked. So, if you like Genshin, if you like the video, consider liking and subscribing. And if you want to see me do more kind of commentary on Genshin, or you like commentary on anime, let me know in the comments down below what you'd like me to talk about next. That's been Gelswick, and I will see you guys in the next video, which will hopefully be edited a little bit more formally by my editor.